Welcome to the Arsenal show. We are live. And it's the festive period for Arsenal. It's been a busy time, but there has been 16 goals scored in, 4 games? Games against West Ham, Leeds, Norwich, and there was a little game against Sunderland where Arsenal got their revenge on Lee Johnson after some big boy talk, which a lot of Arsenal fans didn't like. We've got the full crew in tonight, plus we've got special guest Josh Bunting. How you doing, Josh?
How are you? You okay?
I'm good. And we got Steve K in the house. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Very, very good. Hope everybody out there has had a good Christmas and they're not too feeling a bit worse for the wears, as they say. But yeah, some good results over Christmas. So yeah, looking forward to talking about it.
Good. And we've got our other co-host in the house. It's and he said Jermaine Wright. I'm thinking, who the hell is that? It's Jerome Marks. How you doing, Jerome?
Yeah, fine, thank you. I was initially a little bit upset our game got called off, but thinking about it, giving them maybe a bit of extra rest probably isn't the worst thing in the world. So,
all right,
all good.
We'll get onto that first. What was your first thoughts the other day? Obviously, Arsenal on a rich vein of form right now, scoring for fun. It seems like after what seemed like Arsenal couldn't create much early on in the season. What was your first thought about the Wolves game being postponed, Jerome?
It's well, it got postponed quite early, didn't it? Some of these games have been getting postponed like a few hours before kickoff, so I guess at least it gave people a few days' notice. But watching Arsenal the last few games, it's been really enjoyable, hasn't it? And so you can't get enough of them at the moment.
Yeah.
So in that sense, and I was gonna go as well. So was very much looking forward to it. But it's getting called off for the right reasons, isn't it? So you just got to sort of hold your hands up and say fair enough, and let the boys prepare well for the next game, which is going to be pretty difficult.
Matches against. I mean, if you look at our next group of fixtures, we've got Manchester City at home. We've got Liverpool in the semi-final of the EFL Cup. Then we've got an FA Cup tie against Nottingham Forest, and then we've got Liverpool again. It's a tough period. I know you've got a little bit of Nottingham Forest in there as well, but Steve, really, really, really tough 4 games. Well, the Norwich, you'd think the Nottingham Forest game would be a given, but it's a tough little period there.
Yeah, tough little period, but these are games that we've got to play, and they're going to come round at some point, and there's always going to be a time, for a season where you're going to come up against a run of games, which are going to be tough, like these ones are going to be. I mean, the last few games we could turn around and say, they've been pretty easy. We've had a Southampton, we've had Sunderland thrown in there, we've had a Leeds, we've had a Norwich. So, it's give and take. And yeah, just really expected. But yeah, it's going to be tough, especially the next one. But, we're in a good vein of form, and we can go into it confident.
Yeah, definitely. Josh, did you think the game against Wolves, do you think Arsenal would have got the 3 points in that game? How do you think that game would have gone down?
It would have been a tough game. Wolves are a good side, very, very good defensively. Probably don't have enough goals in them. But yeah, I think the way Arsenal are playing at the moment, I think they would have won the game. They're very fluid. There's a lot of goals in Arsenal at the moment. And I think that they would have eventually broken Wolves down. I think it would have been tight. So maybe, a 1 or 2-0. But yeah, to be honest, I think with the momentum that Arsenal are on, I think they would have won the game.
Yeah. So we're still in this Christmas period. A lot has happened with Arsenal. One of the standout things that has happened with Arsenal is the loss of captaincy for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. But Arsenal seem to have been scoring for fun since he's not been in the team, Steve. How much of a difference have you noticed with Aubameyang out of the team, and what do you think you have noticed with him not being there?
Well, the first thing I've noticed is what you've already said, is the fact that we were worried about that we wasn't going to score goals, but, we are. And Lacazette is popping up. Martinelli is popping up. Smith Rowe is just continuously scoring. Saka is continuously, scoring. Will there be a time when their form will drop? Not necessarily form will drop, but the goal scoring exploits will drop, because these players ain't going to get you 20, 30 goals a season. You want your forward players to do that. So it'd be interesting to see what happens when or if that time comes. But it's at the moment they had to stand up to the plate, didn't they? Arteta's obviously asked them to say, look, Lacazette, Martinelli, you guys, we ain't got our main goal scorer here, and you lot got to stand up, and they have. And at the moment we're not missing his goals. Mm-hmm. But saying that, there will be a time when we will miss, whether it's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's goals, it'll be a centre forward's 30 goal a season tally type players' goals, mm-hmm. and that will have to be sorted out. Whether it's Aubameyang coming back into the side and hitting it off again, or whether it's buying someone in January, because I'm still not totally convinced we'll finish fourth without a main spearhead striker.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Josh, how well do you think the youngsters have dealt with the fact that Aubameyang's not been in the team and the change up top, and essentially like a false nine at some point sometimes?
Yeah, well, I think they've dealt with it really, really well. I think that, we were looking at January and we're thinking, is Martinelli going to be here after January, for example? And he's came into the squad. He's replaced Aubameyang, and he's certainly taken advantage of that. But Aubameyang, I mean, it speaks for himself. Very, very silly in terms of his discipline. And you expect a senior player to set an example to those young players, but they don't look like they've been affected at all. It actually looks like they've sort of been, Martinelli, for example, he's came in the team and he's been motivated by it. He's taken his chance and he's undroppable now. You can't take him out. So I don't think that it's affected them at all. I think it's sort of, arguably it's motivated them to really hit new levels.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, Jerome. We heard a lot of talk previously about how maybe Mikel Arteta didn't fancy Martinelli, this player and that player maybe going. You hear the things about Saliba. Do you think that as fans we should trust a lot more what the manager says when he is asked these questions, and he does say things like, yeah, we fully expect players like Saliba to come back next year. Martinelli, I've got a plan for him. Balogun, I've got a plan for him. It's very easy as fans to dismiss that and try and read between the lines and listen to rumours. But do you think we should start to really put trust in Arteta? In Arteta we trust when it comes to youngsters and development.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with that. I think what he's doing now, Arteta, with what's happened to Martinelli recently, is he's building up a bit of credit or more credit amongst the fan base when he's making these decisions. Before, when he didn't play Martinelli initially, we had sort of we had no credit in the bank to fall back on in terms of bringing these young players through. But now, I mean, the difference in Martinelli, the last few games is massive, I think. And yeah, you're right. Maybe he does have a plan that us fans aren't sort of privy to. And maybe people will now think more, they'll give him more, not more leeway, but they'll have more of an understanding that, Arteta sort of knows what he's doing. And like with Saliba, we don't really know what's happening yet. Maybe the plan is like go out, play as much as you can in in a half decent team in a competitive league, perhaps against some good players, and then come back and then fight for your place. We don't know what's going to happen with Saliba yet.
Yeah.
But what he's done with, especially like with the other young players in the team, with Smith Rowe and Odegaard and Saka, we were afraid that there's too much responsibility on their shoulders, but he's managing them so well, especially obviously Smith Rowe, because he was one of the starters. Smith Rowe in the last few games, he's come off the bench, and for some young players, they might have sort of got their head down, felt a bit disappointed, and showed in their performances. But I can't remember exactly the figure, but he's scored like the last few times he's come on, and for a young player like that, who's I wouldn't say he's been dropped, but he's just not in the starting 11 recently. Like that's such a good sign. And like you mentioned, Aubameyang earlier on, the amount of, I think I saw something whereby Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard and Smith Rowe, out of say whether it's the 40 goals we've scored, they've contributed in like maybe 36 of them or something, some ridiculous figure like that. And they're really stepping up with Aubameyang not there.
Yeah, definitely. I'll go to you the same question, Steve. You feel that as Arsenal fans, we should give Arteta a lot more trust when he comes to the things that he talks about, the development of youngsters? It seems like I know people can be dubious about what comes out of managers' mouths, but what he says seems to be quite transparent. It's very, people could be skeptical at first, but now you're seeing those things actually come to fruition. It's probably the time we sort of took notice.
Yeah, I mean, first I've got to say I've always had trust in him from the beginning. I've always thought that what people have been saying has been very premature. He walks into what I've always said is that he was a mess of a football club, and he had to be given time. And when I see what was said about him at Manchester City by world-class footballers, by Pep, world-class managers, what Arsene Wenger said about him, that he was just management material. I listened to those people, and there was times when I, even when we wasn't playing well, there were times I could see what he was doing. So I always thought, but for those that didn't, then yeah, of course they should. First he's a very young manager, and if they can't see now what he's trying to produce from the club, then I don't think they ever will. I just don't think they ever will, because from my point of view, he's not put a foot wrong. It's very difficult. People will go, well, what about that game against so and so? But you can say that about Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. But Arsenal fans just do that a little bit more too often. And you're absolutely right. They do have to sort of, listen to what he says. They do have to listen to what players from Manchester City says and what Pep says. I am definitely seeing, a trait of Pep Guardiola in Mikel Arteta. I am seeing what he's trying to build, and I'm seeing a Manchester City type way of playing of what he's trying to do. And for me, I've always had the trust, like I said, and especially what he's done over this season, especially. And also he's brought players in that no one thought, who are they? What would they do? And and he's proved a lot of people wrong there. He's proved people wrong, with Ramsdale and Odegaard, and why are they buying him? Why is he coming in? Well, he's proved that he knows a player. It doesn't surprise me, but because he was one of the best clubs in the world, playing with the best players in the world, or coaching the best players in the world. So yeah, he's got to be given a chance now. And as I said, if they can't see it now, then I don't think they ever will.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that has been noted since the changes in the squad, especially Aubameyang, is the emergence of Martinelli and how well he's done. But with that, it's meant that the likes of Emil Smith Rowe spent the last 4 games on the bench. Is there any worry with Emil Smith Rowe's development, Jerome? Do you think the fact that he's not playing, he's only getting 10 minutes here and there, although he has scored in his last 4 games?
Yeah, no concern at all. You know, we can't expect all these players to play every single minute of every game, and we're very fortunate that we can chop and change. We're very fortunate, aren't we, that we can chop and change. Yeah, and Smith Rowe's not going to stay on the bench forever. Just like Martinelli won't stay on the left forever. Yeah, no, I don't think it'll affect it anything one bit. If anything, it will have a good positive impact on him, because it might make him even more hungry. It'll rest his body for a bit. You know, when he first got in the team, there was a concern about his body sort of holding up and having a rest every now and again. That's not a bad thing for him. And I think psychologically or mentally, as a player, he's not the type of player to sulk, and so I can only see it being positive. And the fact that he's having an impact when he's coming on it's a great weapon as well to have, knowing that you can bring someone on who's got a good record of having impact in games late on. I got no worries at all with Smith Rowe, and it'd be the same if Saka spent a few games on the bench. And I think that's, like Steve said, you got to give credit to the manager for that as well, because he's drumming it into these players how important that part of the game is, the sort of mental side of things.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're so lucky to have those 3 attacking players. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
It is. We will come to your questions in a minute. We're going to be doing a lot of talking to the in the comments in a second. Steve, what benefits can this competition have for Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Saka? What benefits can this have with so many players, for Odegaard as well, with so many players for going for one position or 2?
It can turn them into world-class footballers. That's what it can do. Literally. You know, you see, to have Jerome's said it all there, and he's spot on with everything he said. You know, we've got players in that team now who are quite happy to stay on the bench, and to quite happy to come on and play for the team, and not let it bother them. Where in the past, all we've done is we've had people that moan, and again, not repeating what Jerome just said, it's just that he's spot on. The fact that you have to give Mikel Arteta, you know, massive pats on the back, you know, for sort of installing this type of what's the right, you know, education into their heads. I mean, they're pretty much those type of like players anyway. But you know, you can add Martin Odegaard to that list. And if you want to get Champions League, this is what you got to have. You know, you've got to have players who are happy to sit on the bench. And if they're not, as harsh as it says, you don't want these type of players at your club if you want to go Champions League football.
Yeah.
You know, if Smith Rowe and Odegaard and Saka would be moaning and groaning when they was sub, and then they was to come on, and you know, you can see that their thing weren't right, and then when they played, then they looked a different player and they were smashing it. They're not the type of players that you want. You've only got to look at Phil Foden, you know, at Man City. You know, he hardly ever gets a game, but you know, they talk about him as the best youngster in the Premiership. But when he comes on, he smashes it. But yeah, again, just what with Smith Rowe, fantastic attitude. He's an Arsenal boy.
Yeah,
and I haven't got no doubts whatsoever that you know, when he's quite happy to sit on the bench, and obviously don't want to sit on the bench. None of them do. But if you've got players like Odegaard sitting on the bench, Saka sitting on the bench, Martinelli, or you know, every now and then you're talking about going on and challenging the title, you know, in a couple of years' time. If you haven't got that, then you know you're not challenging for the main honours. So yeah, like Jerome said, no worries whatsoever with them.
How important is it that these are players that have come through the ranks that is going to, in the long term, benefit us.
Yeah, because they've been like the club's embedded in them. You know, they're Arsenal fans, they're Arsenal supporters. You know, they've been there since they were 6, 8 years old, like with Martinelli as well. And you know, these all they want to do is play for the football club. You know, it's like they're fans of the club. And I think, you know, Smith Rowe has said quite, you know, a few times in interviews that he doesn't care. And even Martinelli, you know, in an interview, you know, he said that I'm just happy to come on for 10, 15 minutes and do my job. I just love this club. And you've got to, do you know, how refreshing is this for us to talk like this when, you know, it wasn't too long ago that, you know, we was worried, you know, we knew what we wanted to happen, but we didn't know if it was. And again, we go back to Mick Arteta. You know, he's the man that's put all this together. And yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. Jerome, an integral part of this team growing together is as Steve said, the passion to play for the club. Arteta and Arsenal bringing in the right characters to make sure that they've got this longevity, especially when later on down the line, if we're talking about world-class players, we're going to have what we haven't probably felt in years is the pressure of other clubs coming for our players. How important is the fact that these players have this connection to the club for the long term and making sure they stay here?
Yes. It's definitely a help. I think like Wenger said it once, didn't he, about bringing in players. That's one of the reasons he used to bring in players from the youth, because they've, like Steve said, they got Arsenal sort of built in them. And like it's like the connection they have with the fans. They seem to have a very strong bond with, like, the fans love them. Like they can do no wrong. For the fans to turn on any of those players, they're gonna have to do something seriously wrong. And like you can't sort of see it happening. Like they get given a bit more grace. But at the end of the day, the main thing is they're just very good players, no matter where they've come from. But it's just a bonus because Arsenal have to pay no transfer fee for them. It's a massive bonus to have that type of player, not only in your squad but in your starting 11. Like a couple of them, mate, amazing. It's full credit to the people that develop these players.
And how good do you think Smith Rowe can get?
Yeah, we don't know, do we? Like, because they, like, some of them seem to be improving every week. Like, you sometimes forget how young they are. Like, what's Martinelli, 20? And I think Smith Rowe's just maybe 1 or 2 years older. Like,
yeah, Smith Rowe's 21.
Yeah, the development in the next few years, they're only going to get. They're going to get. I think they'll get a lot better than what they are now. So much so they'll probably be sort of totally different players. I think they're good now, but if they do continue to develop, which most players do, don't they? When they get to the sort of mid-20s, they don't say they're in their prime just for the sake of it. It's because they get better over time, and if that's going to happen to Saka and Smith Rowe playing under this manager, it's very exciting.
Steve, out the four, who do you think's got the highest bar? Odegaard, Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli. What kind of players do you think they're going to become?
I think I've said before. I just think these four can be anything. I seriously think they could be anything. I mean, I didn't see much of the Norwich game, but from what I've seen of Martin Odegaard, I mean, we knew what he was like before he actually came to the club. I mean, and he could be extra special, and he's probably the furthest on as far as experience goes. The other three, Martinelli's probably still a little bit behind because he hasn't had that experience yet as much as what Smith Rowe and Saka has. All these players could I don't use the word lightly. When I say they all these could go on to be world-class footballers and play for any team in the world. That's that. I know people class world-class, and they use the word in different aspects, but I use it as that they can play for any club in the world, and I think these four easily could do that. Obviously, I don't want them to, and I want them to stay with Arsenal Football Club and go on and win titles and Champions Leagues. And who's got the ice bar? Who's got the ice bar? I suppose
it's only opinions. It's only opinion. You can't be wrong.
This, if I say one, I'm like, well, it could have been any of the other three. So I'm going to say Odegaard. Yeah, I'm going to say Odegaard because he's the furthest. I think he's the furthest on, and I don't think he gets recognised enough. I know he gets recognised a lot, but I don't think he gets recognised enough because of that reason that he isn't homegrown. And Smith Rowe and Saka, we talk so much about them, but Odegaard to me, he's special to me. He's really special. But very difficult question. But I'm going to say Odegaard. Yeah.
Jerome, do you want to answer the question this week? You want to?
Yeah, you know what? I will. I've only got four. I've got four options, so you've helped me out by narrowing it down a bit. So I will answer it. But I'll just add what's great about these four players is they're all totally different types of player.
Yeah, definitely.
Their main attributes or their strongest attribute is totally different to the others. Smith Rowe, you can maybe have his dribbling. Martinelli is pace and finishing. Saka beating players one-on-one, and Odegaard maybe is passing range. And I actually went to the Sunderland game in the Cup, and it's the first time I've seen Odegaard live. And I know it was only Sunderland, but what I noticed about him is the crispness of his passing. Watching it live is amazing. Like the weight of his passing and how accurate it is. Just the way he hits the ball. I think highest ceiling maybe Martinelli, and the fact that he could perhaps turn into someone that can get a lot of goals. And so he might get maybe noticed a bit more if he's like hitting silly figures goal-wise. And he's the youngest as well. But you could make a very strong case for any one of those to have like the highest ceiling, and it'd be hard to sort of disagree. But maybe Martinelli.
Yeah. Okay.
Do they remind you of anyone like Kieran? Of if you could think of players that have made it and are there now, can you sort of say, okay, for instance, Odegaard to me is like just reminds me so much of David Silva when I watch him play. It's like he's morphing in. It's like Arteta saying, "I want you to morph into Silva," and he's like, that type of thing.
It's hard because I think like what Jerome said there, they've all got something different, and they've all got something different to what I've seen before. It's like I know what you mean. Like you could see very similar traits, but then they've all got their own personality in the way they play as well. Like because some will say with regards to Martinelli, they see a Sanchez in him, and I don't because. No. I think it's a merge of a few players. Like he runs with the power of Cristiano Ronaldo. He has that hustle and bustle like any sort of South American player, like a Tevez, like a Sanchez. So he has that grit, and he always gets stuck in and chase dead balls like that. But then he's just different. It's weird. The other day I was saying Odegaard's like the midfield Bergkamp of our team. It's like he's just class. As Jerome said, it may. I don't want to say it's only Sunderland because there were players that played in that game that didn't play up to that level, that didn't play because I'm going to get on to Pepe in a minute. I thought he had an excellent game against Sunderland, but there's games where I've seen Pepe, games where I've seen other players who are who are at a level much better than the opponent they're playing, and they haven't turned it on. But Jerome said there against Sunderland, Odegaard's movement. I think if you want to get a sort of vision of what some people, or quite a few people recently, have seen Odegaard over the last 5-6 games, it's that's what we've been seeing. Maybe you see it more because he's got more time on the ball, more space, and everything like that. But that's what we've been seeing, and that's why he got man the match against Norwich, because he's just bossing games. He's so comfortable. He's so. But I saw this. I think we saw it last season as well. But he just didn't get the credit for it because Arsenal were in a lower position because of the first half of the season that we had was really, really poor. But Odegaard was bossing games then. He may have been missing the goals that he's started to get this season, but he's doing the same thing as doing before. He's dictating play. He's dictating the pace of the game. He's just everywhere. He just always wants the ball. His vision. You'll see on TV. You'll see a gap on the left hand side. And he's on the right. You're like, pass that ball, and he does it every time. He doesn't hold it too long. He puts it in the space. He fizzes it along the ground. Sees that space. Yeah, I think Odegaard is ridiculously good, and he's starting to get the credit that he deserves. One thing that I have noticed as well is we seem to ask these players to, Saka needs to start scoring goals. He needs to start taking his chance like Martinelli. Bang, scores 2 goals. Smith Rowe needs to start scoring goals and seeing that vision, that final pass, and actually putting it through. Bang, he's getting more assists, and he scored like 7 goals since we started speaking about that. Martinelli, when he comes on, he needs to be a bit more decisive with his play. He's been more composed. Every single thing we've asked these youngsters, they're doing. And that's what's exciting at the moment. That's what's exciting going forward. As for Bar, again, I don't even know why I asked that question. It's a horrible question to ask. It's so hard. Yeah. It's so hard to answer. Odegaard, I'd probably say maybe because he seems the most naturally gifted. It's not to say anything against the rest of them, but then Smith Rowe maybe falls in that bracket as well when you're talking about naturally gifted players. But that being naturally gifted doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that you're going to automatically go to the top, because it's like the Messi and the Cristiano Ronaldo argument. One's probably more naturally gifted than the other, but the other one's taken what he's got and accentuated it beyond belief, like by training, being a physical monster, being an athlete, and honing his skills. So yeah, it's with what we've seen of Mikel Arteta so far, with what we've seen of his previous CV, with the likes of Silva, Sterling, and all of them, it's a genuinely exciting place to be at Arsenal again, and to see the different level and the different type of player that's been brought in from the under-18s and the under-23s into the first team training as well. I know Jerome's seen a couple of them: Kiddo Taylor-Hart, Amari Hutchinson, Charlie Patino, Marcelo Flores. All of these players are now training with the first team. And that's a complete contrast to the players that were training with the first team with Unai Emery. It seems like it's gone more back into the blueprint of what Arsenal used to be, a bit more technical. But hopefully Mikel Arteta is going to hone them in to be a bit more rugged as well as technical as well. So yeah, it's a very exciting time. One player I do want to get onto, because he splits opinion. I think there's a deep love for him, but we just frustration more so. It's Nicolas Pepe. We've seen that he's starting to get a few minutes here and there, maybe only 10, 15 here and there, a bit like Smith Rowe. Do you think this is any indication that there is still a future for Nicolas Pepe, Steve, and that Arteta still has hope and trust that he can pull out and make him tick?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. We all know what Nicolas Pepe can do on his day, and I think Mikel Arteta knows that as well. And in a strange way, especially in an article that I read that he was talking about Nicolas Pepe, it came across to me as if he wants to make Nicolas Pepe a mission into sort of, building him into convincing him that what he can become, because he more or less came across and said, he pulled him to one side and apparently he said to him, look, he said, you've got all this talent, all this quality. He said, but, you've got to sort of work on your mentality and on your confidence, and realise, what you can do. And I don't think he's going to go. I'm absolutely positive he's going to go. Not going to go. Actually, going by his words. And I think there's something. There's a player there. We all know he's a player there, but we just don't. He's very, very inconsistent. Where the rest of the team isn't inconsistent at the moment. He's the one that you think, well, I'll bring him on or I'll play him, but you're never too sure what you're going to get. I don't think there's an Arsenal player now in that first 11 who you can bring on and you think is going to have a bad game. You're pretty 90% confident they're all going to perform and they're all on the same page. But I don't know if Nicolas Pepe is yet. And I think that's down to his confidence. And it's like I said, reading that article, it came across to me that he wants to make Nicolas Pepe a mission, that he can see the talent that he's got, and he wants to bring that out of him. He's very similar to a Sterling. He's very similar to a Sane, very similar to a Mahrez, in that type of player. And every single one of those players have lauded Arteta into turning them into what they are today. And they have actually come out and said that. And I think he wants to do the same for Nicolas Pepe. So, I mean, we was just talking about trusting Mikel Arteta, trusting the process. That I think we should let him get on with it. And if he wants him to stay, then we should support Arteta and we should support Nicolas Pepe.
100%. I'm a big fan of Pepe, and I think if Arsenal were to get rid of Pepe, we'd only have to go and find another Pepe type, and these players aren't readily available. And
it's a price tag as well, isn't there?
They're very hard. They're very hard to find. For one, two, they're all very hard to get a tune out of. It's a difficult one. Jerome, you went to the Sunderland game. Probably not the first 10-15 minutes, but how good was Pepe in that game? Put Sunderland aside, how good was Pepe in that game?
That game totally summed him up, because he had some amazing moments where he was nutmegging people like for fun, but he had some other like cold moments where he just looked horrific. That sums him up. He'll have some amazing bits of skill, will make players look silly, and then he'll do things that make himself look silly. I think if Arteta rated him, I think he would have played more than what he has done recently. And so he's not like a Martinelli that's a young kid that's just sort of broke into the team. He's like, was he 25, 26, Pepe? Like he would have had more minutes if Arteta rated him, and that's what makes me think that he could be off soon.
But where do you think he fits in a team that is ticking like they are at the moment? Because especially considering someone who is absolutely on fire is only getting 10-15 minutes in the last 4 games in the Smith Rowe.
I don't know. I think he's got too many holes in his game, Pepe, for me. Like, where does he fit in? I don't think he does fit in. But that's just my opinion.
What would you do with Nicolas Pepe, and if you was to sell him, who would you bring in?
I don't know. It's hard. I don't know if I'd like look at it like that. they're obviously linked with the guy from Juventus, Kulusevski.
Kulusevski, yeah.
I think he plays on the left, though. I think he plays the other side. Yeah. I think, I'm not 100%.
I just think that you'd have seen more of Pepe. And that doesn't bode well in terms of his future.
What is it about his game that's most frustrating for you, that especially is going off the back of what you saw in the Sunderland game?
I think that I know people used to say Sanchez lost the ball trying things. He'll lose the ball without trying anything. Like, he'll just pick up the ball on the wing, and he's super lightweight. He just loses the ball far too often in positions where he shouldn't lose the ball. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fine.
I think what Arteta wants to do is this. I mean, whether he does it or not is another thing. Jerome might be right. I think the price tag. We're going to lose money if we sell him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. So if you can see something in him, and you can get something out of him,
you better find it.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna do your utmost to try and do so. And I'm racking my brains at the minute, and I'm sure you're going to come up with someone and go, yeah, but Steve, but I don't. There's no one. Saka, there's no one to replace Saka, is there, on that right? And apart from Pepe. So and again, it's a big if, but if you can get something out of him to be like, as you said, we've got Smith Rowe, who's quite happy to come on, off, and he sort of plays on that leftish side with Martinelli. If you've got those two, alternating on that side, and you've got Pepe and Saka alternating on the other side. Again, I say it's a big if, but for the price tag, like Jerome said, he might have, seen him enough in trying to think, I can't get no more out of him. But I still think that the fact that we've got no one to replace Saka yet, it would mean that we would have to buy someone, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And that don't put us in any good situation. So, yeah, unless he's absolutely, drip dried Pepe, and everything, and he's gone, I just can't do nothing with him, then fair enough. But if there's a chance, I think there's a few reasons there why you would take it to the end to try and get a player out of him there, especially because we've got no one as a replacement on that right hand side, unless someone can think of one. I can't think of one.
No, not unless they're going to bring someone through the ranks.
Yeah.
I get where Jerome's coming from, but I think there's, like, against Sunderland, and I agree. I saw what probably keeps Nicolas Pepe out of the team, but I only saw that in the first 15 minutes. After that, I thought he grew into the game, and I thought he was excellent. I didn't see too much, unless you saw something from being there live. I didn't see too much of an issue after that. I thought he was a lot more composed. I thought he was more decisive with his passing, with regards to. I don't think he was wasteful. If he did lose the ball, it generally ended up as a free kick, a corner, a throw. Something we could get something out of. I thought, yes, it was Sunderland, but like I said, El Nene played bang average in that game, and other players were excellent in that game. Odegaard was excellent. So yeah, I still think I'm probably a fool because I was the one that was holding on to hope that Francis Jeffers would be a decent player, but But I still think that Pepe can be an asset for Arsenal, and I think with the likes, with every club has bought a player that is this sort of maverick player. Man City have Mahrez, Man United have Sancho. Even you go down to Wolves and you've got Traore. You've got St. Maximum at Newcastle. Everyone's got this player, and they're not easy to get a tune out of. They're not easy to get end product out of. Yes, we would all love a Pepe who was probably about 2 stone heavier and could bulldoze through people as well, as do step overs and take people on. But yeah, I think he's got other attributes that some of them players haven't got, i.e. with their finishing. I think he needs to be a bit more sharp with it, but his goal tally is pretty good. Let's get on to the comments. Go on, Steve.
No, I was going to say, if you're going to sell Pepe, would you get 30 million?
Yeah,
for him?
that
25.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get like 25 million for him and you're going to sell him, right? Then you've lost yourself 50 million.
Yeah, who are you going to get for 25?
But this is what I'm saying.
And then you've got to go and buy someone. So you've lost 50 million. And then you've got to go and buy someone for what? Say 30 million. So then all of a sudden, Arsenal Football Club have done 80 million. You're gonna work your ass off to try and get Pepe going, aren't you? You know, for 80 million pound. You know, the Kronkins are going knocking on Arteta's door and say, please, be on their knees, wouldn't they? Say, please get what you can. And it's like, you know, it's not a matter of him being on the pitch. It's about having a player to replace, you know, bringing him on for Saka after 60 minutes or 70 minutes when Saka's injured, that he comes in as a replacement. We're not talking about Nicolas Pepe starting in the starting 11 every week. You know, fans have got to realise that you've got to have players on the bench that's got to replace players. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't if Saka gets injured, or you can't replace him with a youth player.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to bring on. I wouldn't like to bring in a. I think there'd be a stark contrast. You'd see it a bit like when people talk about Eddie and and Balogun. I think you'd see a stark contrast if you was to see someone come through like a Hutchinson, even a Reece Nelson, over a Pepe. I see a massive gulf in experience and talent right now in those players. So yeah, let's see what Mikel Arteta can do with Nicolas Pepe, but I still hold hope that he can bring a player out of him on a more consistent basis. All right, let's go to the comment section. Stephen is in the house. All right, Arsenal fans have loved Martinelli right from the off with his performances, but if we're honest, he looks better now than when we first played. I agree. Jerome, what's your thoughts on that? Do you feel that Martinelli looks a better player now than when we maybe saw him first come through? That exciting player that people were talking about, Ballon d'Or winner. Do you think he's a better player now than he was then, even though he hasn't exactly had a mass amount of games?
Yeah, maybe he's a bit more rounded, perhaps. Like his all-round game, I think, has improved. But when he first came on, he looked amazing, didn't he? So,
yeah.
But I think it's the consistency and like being involved more in games, linking the play, and not. I think someone put it down, not just sort of going 100 miles an hour the whole time. But yeah, he definitely looks like he's improved, and he's only going to get better, I think.
Yeah, definitely. He said Arteta said about Martinelli doing everything 100 miles an hour and burnout. I think maybe the concern for Tierney's goal, he won the ball back on the right wing. He does try to do Does he try to do too much? I don't think when Mikel Arteta was talking about burnout, I think he's talking about Martinelli in games. He's like, sometimes it may be, not to be disparaging, but like a headless chicken sometimes, where he's running here, he's running there, and he's going up there, he's trying to shut down the goalkeeper, and then he's running back and he's doing it. And then by half time, he's blowing out. I think the difference in his play the other day to that Norwich goal was he wasn't doing that beforehand. And then when he ran across to the other side of the pitch, it was because the Norwich team was making the pitch so narrow, and then they all shifted to one side. So it was a bit like he yes, there was that element of he's chasing the game, but I think it was more calculated. I think he'd seen how Norwich were moving along, and then got involved in that. He saw that Paletta, or his name is on the other wing, was being lazy as well. He wasn't tracking back. He wasn't moving. So he probably felt that, do you know what I mean? And also in that game, Norwich were kicking us about a bit. And there was a little bit of, for the team, getting stuck in, have some of that. Do you know what I mean? And we saw it with Ben White when he put in a challenge, and then someone got in his face, and then a couple of the Arsenal players came over, which I'm seeing a lot more, which I love, because it shows unity. It shows that people are willing to fight. We're not asking people to throw fists, but it's a perception that you want of your team is if you're going to take one, you want to take the rest of us. And I love that. And long may it continue. Stephen says, one thing I like about the youth and the English players is they know what it means to play for the club like Arsenal, and it's changed the atmosphere around for the better. Steve, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think we touched on it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a big difference when players come through from the youth, and it's we like to see it. It's very exciting when you follow players that you talk about for years that you hope that's going to get a chance, and you see them come on as a sub, and then they go on for the League Cup player, and then you see them get their first game, and then they turn into what we're seeing today. And yeah, I totally agree. It's a different kettle of fish, and a club is certainly a lot richer for having youth players come through into the into the first team, and we've got an abundance of them now. And I think that's one of the, they've come through. They're not only, they're mates. They've played in, the under 17s, the under 23s, even the under 12s. They've came through that type of, era. And then you've got players like with Kieran Tierney and Odegaard and, Ben White and Aaron Ramsdale. They've all sort of came in and sort of morphed into that, into with them. And it's just like they've got a load of mates now. I mean, you've only got to go back to, the class of 1992, where, they had 5 or 6 players came in. They was all youth players. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about seeing probably the greatest Premiership side that there's ever been. Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of difference. We're talking about Liverpool. We've seen the players that coming on and that come through there. And okay, it's difficult for them because they're type of side to just go and buy, the stars here and there. But they've got incredible players, and Liverpool's a much stronger football club through having them, and they will probably come on to be first team Liverpool players. So yeah, it's fantastic. And as you've already said, Kieran, you've named 3 or 4 other ones on top of that, with Charlie Patino, Hutchinson, and a couple of others. So yeah, it's fantastic, and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. I would have liked to. Johnny says, I would like to have seen what Arteta could have done with the likes of Oxen Santi. Just saying. We're talking about. Let's not dismiss what Arsene Wenger done with Santi Cazorla. Santi Cazorla is one of the best players I've seen in that midfield in an Arsenal top. Especially in the Emirates area. He was a magician. Left foot, right foot, you couldn't even tell it sometimes. I still couldn't tell you what foot he was. I'm pretty sure he was a right-footed player, but it didn't matter. I see him score and take free kicks with a left, and the same with putting crosses in or taking corners, which is unheard of. Santi Cazorla was a genius. But it'd be interesting to see what Mikel Arteta could have done as an assistant to Arsene Wenger. As a coach with Arsene Wenger, that would have been very interesting, because we all know that Arsene Wenger tried to get Mikel Arteta in as coach, but I think Mikel Arteta wanted the assistant manager job at the time, which was vacated by Steve Rowe. The more successful we are, the more games there will be to play. So Smith Rowe won't be a problem, 100%. We get Europe this year, we're going to be talking an extra 15 games in the season. And that's what we wanted. That it's not nice not being in Europe because it's too much of a gap in between games. And you want your players to be playing in European competitions so they can up their levels. Think how good this team will be once they start playing in Europe, once Smith Rowe's playing in Europe regularly, Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, and together as well. And the likes of Ben White, who's not had any European football. Gabriel's only had a season. Tomiyasu, yes, he's played for Bologna, but he's not. Don't believe they've played in the European trophies. So, yeah, they've got higher bars to go. They've got a lot better to get through playing in them competitions as well. What else we got here? Also have a few Mavericks. What we saying? You're not Saka is the youth player you should be bringing on. I hear what you mean with regards to. I think we said it previously when we was talking about these players. No matter how good they are, they shouldn't be the only players. Because I think Steve, you said many a time in the past how yes we like Saka, yes we like Smith Rowe, but should we be relying on them? Should they be the only players? And I think it's a little bit what you touched on about Pepe. Saka needs someone there, competition, rotation, and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I think you were saying earlier. I don't agree in the slightest. Arteta picked him enough and gave Pepe opportunities. He isn't Arteta's fault. He didn't perform. No, it's not a case of fault and not performing. I just think that Mikel Arteta is an excellent coach. And I think that you've seen what Pepe can do with his previous club. We've seen when he on his day what he can do. And if you can do that on your day, it means that there's a player in there that you should be able to get more out of on a consistent basis. If I hadn't seen moments of brilliance, I wouldn't even give it the time of day. I don't really think it's about just being picked enough, because I think there's certain circumstances. I think a lot has happened with Arsenal, and there's also a reason why some of the other players are ticking now and haven't been previously. I just think it's my own opinion. I think there's a place in the team for Pepe, and I think that I think that Mikel Arteta is good enough to get it out of him. As Steve touched on earlier, I think they spoke about mentality, and Mikel Arteta has spoken about that with Martinelli as well. The way he acts when he's not playing, the way he reacts when he comes off, when he is playing, it's certain things like that. So, Steve, you saying what you want to say about that?
Yeah, no, I mean you can't say Arteta's a bad coach and he's not done this. I mean, we've only got to look at what he's done with Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, look at Ben White, Gabriel, Tierney. He might have a little bit to say with how Xhaka's done. Look at Martinelli, look at Smith Rowe, look at Xhaka. What, you're going to pick out Pepe? You're going to pick out one player? I'll pick out one player Pep's done, one player Jurgen Klopp's done. That's a ridiculous statement. And no, I mean, that's just someone who don't like Mikel Arteta, because that's not even an argument. Sorry.
What else we got? I think that is about it. And we pretty much hit the hour anyway. Final thoughts. Man City coming up. Big game on Saturday, Steve. At home, what do you think Arsenal can get from this game? I don't know much about team news for Man City. It's going to be a tough one. Do you think there's a chance we can get something out of this?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's always a chance, and again, we're playing well at the moment. But look, we're probably arguably playing the best side in the Premiership. So you know, we're going to be playing, you know, Arsenal are not the complete article. As much as we've waxed lyrical about them tonight and, you know, applauded them, and they totally deserve everything that we've all said, you know, Man City are still a different kettle of fish. You know, they're the finished article, you know, and, you know, they're probably going to win the title this year. So it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a good test for us. You know, these are the type of games that will be a test. You know, will we win? Will we get beat on this one? I don't know. You know, you know, if you ask most people, they'll probably say that we're going to lose this one. You know, because it's Man City. But I'm looking forward to it. I won't be too disappointed if we lose. I'll just be looking at coming back and, you know, doing well the following game, which is what, you know, we have been doing recently. But come on, you know, this is Man City, and you will get people get on their back if we get beat. But there's a good chance, you know, we could, you know, we could get something here, you know, and we can beat Man City. But you know, this, you know, we're not the finished article yet. So you know, remember that we're playing the finished article. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely. Jerome, in space of 2 weeks, 4 games, Man City, Liverpool twice, Nottingham Forest. You think the Man City game, if we could to get a good performance in that one, it would help us going forward in the EFL trophy and against Liverpool in the league?
Oh, if we can get anything out of the Man City game, it'll be amazing. And yeah, if they do, the confidence will go through the roof if they get anything out of Man City. But going into that game, just for myself, very, very low expectations. Mainly because they're an amazing side, and to get anything against them, I think everything's going to have to go our way. The crowd are going to have to be on it. There's going to have to be like an amazing atmosphere to give like the players a bit of extra energy. Everyone's going to have to play well. We're going to have to ride our luck a few times. I'm sure, you know, they'll have so much possession that they'll create so many chances. And every one of our players has got to have a decent game. Otherwise, I don't hold much hope. But this isn't our competition at the moment, Man City. Like Steve said, like if we lose to them, it's not the end of the world because they're an amazing side.
It's just more about the way we do it. If we were
to
lose,
yeah, definitely.
It's about the performance. Last one, Steve. They conceded 3 against Leicester. I think it's 3 counter-attacks. Something that we've been very good at, especially the transition in play more recently. A lot quicker, a lot more direct, fluid. Do you think we can, if we can keep it tight, we can hit them on the counter and devastate them that way?
Oh, absolutely. There's no argument to say that, you know, they will be scared. They will be worried about our players. And, you know, when you've got, you know, players like Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Saka, Martinelli, even Lacazette, you know, and you know, these players are on form, you know, they're going to be wary. And you won't see the Man City of like where they go away and they just actually just attack. I don't think you're going to see that. Yeah. You know, they're going to pay Arsenal a lot of respect this time, where I think in the past they've just gone way out and they've just smashed us. You know, they won't do that because they'll know exactly what you've just said there, Kieran. They will know that if they lose possession and we break that up possession with Partey, with Xhaka, and we lay it off and they play them through balls like they have been doing over this season, we will hurt them and we will score goals. So yeah, I can't wait. It's very exciting. And the forward players, again, Lacazette, it's going to be big game for him, big game for Martinelli. You know, because we will have to score. We might have to score 2, but you know, their defence isn't as, you know, as good as other years. And look, we're scoring goals for fun at the moment. You know, and it doesn't matter if it's Man City or you're Sunderland, right? Yeah. We've all played football, whether you're playing school football or whether you're playing non-league or you're playing over the Hackney Marshes, yeah, if you're smashing them in the goal every week, you don't care who you're playing that following week because you're just smashing them in again, and that's where Arsenal are at the moment. So yeah, they're going to have to be careful. Exactly what Jerome said. If we win, it wouldn't be surprising. It won't be the end of the world, but it's going to be good, and we can turn them over. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go, Jerome, do you think it's key that we don't pay them too much respect?
Yeah, definitely. We seem to do that, don't we, against the bigger teams, both home and away, and it's a mental thing, isn't it? It's like a mental barrier to overcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can't sit off and just let them have the ball because eventually they'll break us down. They
will. All right. Thank you for joining us tonight, guys. Thank you for everyone in the comment section who played your part. Johnny, nice to see you again. Stephen's in the house there. Melvin Marks is in the house as well. As always, thank you very much, Melvin. Who else we got in there? You're Not. How you doing? You're Not. Why Not? Sorry. Crazy guy. Glenn 10's in the room. How you doing, Glenn? Good to see you again, mate. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that share. If you're watching, hit the share, hit the like button as well. We've got quite a few people who've watched tonight so far, so come over to join us to KS1 TV and hit the subscribe. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Jerome.
Yeah, pleasure. Cheers.
And thank you very much for joining us tonight, Steve.
Cheers, mate. Pleasure.
All right. So, peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.